Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're diving into something big, a huge proposed change to India's Goods and Services Tax, or GST. And really, the main question is, could this be a massive gift for the whole economy?
Okay, let's just cut right to the chase. I want you to imagine you're out doing your Diwali shopping, right? And all of a sudden, a ton of the things you're buying are cheaper. And not because of some store sale, but because the government actually changed the tax system. Well, that's the potential reality we're looking at today. So, what is this surprise we're talking about? Well, it's all about trying to simplify one of the biggest, and let's be honest, most complicated tax reforms in India's recent history.
All right, just for a quick refresher, remember GST? It was brought in back in 2017 to get rid of a whole messy web of different state and central taxes. The idea was beautiful, really. One nation, one tax, one market. Simple.
But, in practice, it didn't turn out to be quite that simple. We ended up with these multiple tax rates, or slabs. So right now, pretty much everything you buy falls into one of four buckets: 5%, 12%, 18%, and then a pretty hefty 28%. And that complexity? That's the exact problem this new proposal is trying to fix.
So how are they going to fix it? Well, the whole idea revolves around a major shuffle of these tax slabs.
Okay, so right now, the whole system is built on these four main tax rates. And yeah, it can get pretty confusing. The new plan is to take all of that and boil it all down.
To just two. That's it. That's the big idea, going from a pretty complex four-rate system to a much simpler two-rate system for almost everything we buy.
So here's how it would actually work. The 5% and 18% slabs, they're going to stay. But the 12% and 28% slabs, poof, they're gone. Anything that was in the 12% bracket gets shifted into either the 5% or 18% one. And most of the stuff from that top 28% slab, it's going to drop all the way down to 18%. Now, they are creating a new special 40% sin tax for things like tobacco, but for almost everything else, the system gets way simpler.
Now, a change this massive doesn't just happen in a bubble. It creates this huge ripple effect that touches every part of the economy.
Which kind of begs the question, right? Why now? What's the game plan here? Why make such a big move at this specific moment? See, this GST reform isn't a solo act. It's actually part of a much bigger three-pronged strategy to kickstart the economy. First, you've got these GST cuts to make things cheaper. Second, you have the income tax relief we saw, which leaves more money in people's pockets. And third, the RBI has been cutting its repo rate, which basically just makes loans cheaper for everybody. It's this big, coordinated push to get us all out there spending again. So who are the big winners in all of this? Well, there are several key sectors that are probably pretty happy about these potential tax cuts. We're talking about a whole range of industries, from auto parts and textiles all the way to critical areas like healthcare, medical devices, and even insurance.
And it's not just the big players. Businesses, especially the smaller ones, could see a huge upside. I mean, a simpler system means fewer confusing rules and weird tax loopholes to deal with. And it also promises faster tax refunds, which, if you run a small business or a startup, you know is absolutely critical for cash flow.
And of course, it all comes back to you, the consumer. This isn't just some abstract economic policy. It could actually mean you pay less for everyday stuff. Things like sugar, jam, and condensed milk could get cheaper. Same for essential items like insulin, and even things like handbags and tableware.
This all sounds fantastic, doesn't it? So, what's the catch? There has to be a downside to cutting taxes this much, right?
Well, it really boils down to a classic trade-off. In the short term, yeah, the government's revenue is probably going to take a hit. But the long-term bet is that by making goods cheaper, more people will buy more stuff, and that increased consumption is supposed to boost the whole economy, which would actually increase government revenues down the road, all while helping out rural and middle-class families the most. It's a long game.
So when you put all the pieces together, you can start to see why some people are calling this whole thing a double Diwali gift for the economy.
And let's be clear, this is a landmark reform. A move towards a simple two-rate GST system is a massive deal for the Indian economy. It's a huge topic of debate for policy experts, and it signals a really fundamental shift in economic thinking.
And that, ultimately, is why it's being called a double Diwali gift. There's one gift for businesses, in the form of simplicity and efficiency, and a second gift for all of us consumers, in the form of lower prices.
At the end of the day, the goal is pretty straightforward. Create a simpler, more efficient tax system that gets the economic engine humming. But the big question remains,
Will this big shuffle actually deliver the kind of economic fireworks that India is hoping for? Well, that's the billion-dollar question we'll all be watching. Thanks for tuning in.